Hi, I'm the Certified Nerd, and today we're going over the dress-up uniform. So today I will be showing you how a soldier of the U.S. Army in 1969 would have dressed. I'll be talking this kind of video is not going to be like all the nitty-gritty with all the personal items and all that. It's going to be about the equipment and clothing, how it was put on, and what it was designed to do, kind of like in the sense of, like hot weather gear, why is it, all that stuff. Because Vietnam was a very specific place. And it's pretty similar to the Pacific of World War II, but a little different. And so you'll see some similarities if you look at uniforms from World War II, from the Pacific, from the Marines in the United States. So yeah, this is kind of like a further evolution of that if you really want to talk about it. But at the beginning of the war and before the war, the U.S. Army actually was issuing out the OG-107 utility fatigues to its soldiers and advisors in Vietnam. Problem with the utility fatigues is the cotton they're made out of, even though it's cotton, so this should be breathable, it's a very thick stitch, and it's very tightly woven. Not only that, it's also very tight to your skin, and it's hot. It's really hot. Trust me, I've worn those. It's unbearably hot. So in 1962, they designed the jungle fatigues with the first patterns, which had exposed buttons and epaulets and a gas flap and all that fun jazz, which I will be getting a pair of soon. Hopefully, we'll see. I am planning on doing that and doing early war impressions, so we'll wait for that. But second patterns came out in 1966. Yes. Second patterns came out in 1966. They just covered the buttons, and then in 1967 they designed the third patterns, which got rid of a lot of the extra things like epaulets, the gas flap, and all that. And then I think later in 67, if not in 68, they designed the ripstop pattern of cotton. So the other ones are made of poplin cotton, which apparently tears easier, which I think it actually does. And so they designed ripstop to not rip as much, because obviously in the jungle there's a lot of thorns and things you can rip your clothes on, so they designed ripstop to prevent that. Doesn't really do that very well, but so what I'm wearing is the pretty much basic undergarments that you would wear. So just a basic green t-shirt. That's what you would have seen at this time. White was early war, but they started getting green. Doesn't really matter on the shade, because people would dye their white t-shirts green, and they got their green t-shirts from all different kinds of companies. And so the shade kind of varies, but pretty much just a OD green or dark green is what you're going to want. I'm wearing third pattern jungle fatigue pants. And you'll see a lot more with the jacket, but these are designed heavily off the M43 uniform that the paratroopers used in World War II. So it's very baggy, which you want for in hot conditions. That allows more airflow and stuff like that. And then you have two big old pockets in the front, two small pockets in the back, which I never use. And then two cargo pockets, and then this cargo pocket you have a bandage pocket as well on the inside to carry a bandage. These are very great. They are very light and they're pretty cool. You're not going to get like too terribly hot in it. Of course, it's long sleeves, so yeah. But a lot of the big pocket space is really nice. And then I'm wearing USGI socks. These are reproductions. They are cushioned to help for comfort when wearing boots. Speaking of boots, that's what's next. Next up, we have the jungle boots and boxing bands, which I will put on off camera, but I'll talk about them right here. So jungle boots first got introduced, I believe, also in 1962, if not 63. I'm pretty sure that was the first patterns. Unless it was 64. No, they came out pretty early. Yeah, and because the first pattern jungle fatigues and jungle boots were tested by advisors, and then they started being issued to the standard troops when we started getting them there in 65. So in 1962, I believe, is when you got the first patterns, and then the second patterns came out in 1965, and then in 1966 you got the third patterns, and then in 1967 they added a steel plate inside of the third patterns to help them with punji sticks and other booby traps to prevent them from going into the boot. And then in 1968 they switched from the Vibram sole to the Panama sole. So yeah. These boots are pretty nice. They're made out of leather, and they have thick rubber soles, which is great. They're very comfortable. They have a very good cushioning on the inside. And they're also very, very durable. I do have a cut in mine, but... And they also are made out of cotton for easier flexibility, and it's cheaper, and they also kind of blend in a little better. And then they have some nylon reinforcements. And then you have some drain holes too on the side, which are very helpful for getting water out. The initial soles that these were made out of are kind of like a mesh material, and so when you step on them, it squeezes all the water out. These reproductions do not have that because they were not able to reproduce them, but if you get original pair of jungle boots, they should have that insole. So I'm gonna go put these on real quick. All right, so I got the boots on. I also have them bloused. Now there's a couple ways you can blouse them, and you do see them bloused. You can blouse them with the blousing bands on the pants, but that's not very common to do. You can also blouse them in the more modern way where you blouse it over the boots. However, I do see a lot of guys blousing them right above the boots, so that's what I do. You'll see a lot of photos of them like when they're laying down and all that, and their pants being pulled up, that their blousing bands are right above their boots, and they kind of just tuck their pants into it. But yeah, the boots are also tied in a very specific way. I don't know if you can really see it from here, but I might get some close shots, we'll see. I'll put up some close shot videos. But they're jungle tied, so the laces are wrapped around the boot and then tied off and then tucked back in. And this is, or jungle tied or leech tied. And this is to help prevent leeches or other things you don't want in your boots getting in your boots, and just helps with that. So yeah. Moving on, we'll go on to the shirt, or as I call it, a jacket, but it's technically a shirt. They call it the OG107 shirt. But this is your third pattern jungle fatigue shirt. So it's pretty simple. It's just a big old cotton shirt with a collar and fastened together with technically 5 buttons, but everyone always just does 4 and then keeps the top one folded over. So as you can see, it's pretty nice. It's baggy as well. I will say these are technically a size too big for me. I did order big in anticipation of me growing more, so this is technically a little too big, but it's not horrible, and I'm still technically growing, so we'll see. But you got 4 big old pockets on the front, and then that's really about it. You got a pin pocket here, and then on most soldiers you'll see them rolling up their sleeves, either doing a 3/4 roll or a 1/4 roll. Sometimes a half roll, but that's not very common. And this is just to, help get the breeze on your skin, and it's pretty helpful, trust me. But yeah, so that's the shirt. And then next up for this is just an identifying for unit stuff. I put this on mainly just because it's our unit, so this is specific to our unit, but some other units did scarves like this, like the black scarves. We're also a first ID unit, but we do the 128, and they were known as the Black Lions, and they wore the 1st battalion of the 20th Infantry Regiment would wear these scarves made out of parachute scraps, and they would have their battalion patch sewn onto them. So you can either wear it like this around your head, or like a Boy Scout scarf, which is more of a ceremonial thing, but you do see this in combat and around the head in combat, and technically in the back in combat as well. But yeah. So then, next up, we have our OG107 cap. This is the baseball cap, also known as the hot weather cap. It is meant to be a nice and good looking hot weather cap. It's made out of a light cotton material, and it also has some air holes at the top, but it's not the best. It kind of sucks, to be honest, and a lot of soldiers didn't like it, so you really don't see it that much, especially later in the war. But early in the war, of course, you see it all the time. It's a ceremonial thing, and it's not bad. It's just, it's not the best. And of course, this is not for a combat, so we're gonna take this off and get further down the combat line. Next up, we have the equipment. So this is the M56 equipment setup. This is a basic rifleman setup of suspenders, belt, 2 ammo pouches, 2 canteen pouches, and a personal fighting knife, in this case a Bowie knife, sorry. And of course the ammo pouches have grenades on them, as it should. If I can get this on, there we go. Yeah, so this is the standard equipment setup. Especially later in the war, though, you see a lot of people start to ditch these basics, the basic setup as it's called, Some people also like to do varied setups, but of course this is the majority that you will see, especially early in the war. Later in the war, you start to see lighter equipment setups, more bandoliers and claymore bags to hold ammunition and stuff like that. And so, yeah, but in the first AD especially, you are going to see these pretty commonly throughout their entire time in the war. Next up, speaking of bandoliers, we have our 7-pocket M16 bandolier. The bandoliers were very common almost throughout every war we fought since World War I, but they especially gained a lot of commonality in World War II and especially Vietnam. You see a lot of guys with bandoliers, if not claymore bags or other such bags to carry extra ammunition. These can hold 7 20-round magazines for the M16, which hold 20 rounds of 5.56. You also see a lot of guys carry 2, one going this way, one going the other way. I only carry 1. You do see some guys just carrying 1 as well. In our unit especially, you see a lot of claymore bags, but I like the bandolier a lot, and you do see some guys use it, so I do want to represent it. Sorry about that, my phone was telling me it's dying. So I'm gonna hurry this up a little bit. But yeah, so standard for this equipment got 2 first aid pouches or compass pouches. Most times you only see 1, but our unit, there's a lot of 2s. But yeah, so this is your basic equipment set. Next up, we got a towel. These are pretty common to see, especially just wrapped around the neck. If you've ever done sports or have been an athlete in your time, especially with a heavy outdoor sport like football, baseball, or something like that, or track even, you'll see a lot of common practices. Take a towel, pour some water on it, and then put it on your neck. And that's a really, really good thing to do because it helps cool you down, and the towel is also great for wiping sweat. And me living in Texas, which is pretty much just Vietnam and the United States, besides, well, foliage, these are very nice. And of course I always put water on it, not this time, but put water on it, have it cool me down. And you see a lot of soldiers do this. Not every soldier does, and it's not the most common thing in the world, but it's pretty common. Towels are great. But yeah, so moving up, we got headgear. We got 2 options here. The most common option, even though there's some people who disagree, is going to be the M1 helmet. This is the M1 helmet with a Mitchell camouflage cover. It's got the Army helmet band and my instructor, stuff like that. This is going to be your most common, and this is pretty much your combat setup. So if you're going into a light battle or a very light patrol, or, well, if you're, say, like Hamburger Hill in an instance, where you're not going on a long patrol, you're just charging enemy position, this is kind of what you're going to carry. You do see a lot of videos and photos of guys carrying this, even on really light patrols as well. So no rucksack and all that, but this is really nice because you don't need that for a really long patrol, or short patrol, my bad. But yeah, so your other option, which is a little nicer, a lot lighter, but it does give you less protection, but it is also a lot cooler, is the boonie hat. In this case, I have an ERDL boonie hat. This is a reproduction. And these are very nice for the hot weather. They definitely block a lot of the shade and a lot of the rain that would be prevalent in Vietnam. So a little bit better than the helmet in that regard. They're also a lot cooler than the helmets and a lot lighter. But it, like I said, does not give you as much protection. So, but later in the war, you see a lot of guys carrying boonies instead of helmets, but the helmet is still very prevalent, especially in the 1st Infantry Division and the Army itself. So, toss that. And next up, to make this an actual combat impression, we have the rifle. This is the M16A1, and this is my M16A1. This is a real gun that my dad was so gracious to buy for me. But yeah, so this of course is your standard weapon for the Army and for most of the troops in Vietnam, especially in 1969, because in 1968 the M16 officially replaced the M14. Of course, first adopted in 1965 with the XM16E1 or just the M16, and then in 1967 they're like, there's some issues here, so let's improve that, so they designed the M16A1. Very slightly different from the actual M16, just some small internal improvements, some external improvements as well, but overall pretty much the same gun. An amazing weapon in my opinion, and one of my favorites. And then the last piece of equipment, of course, for when you're going on those long patrols, one of the most iconic pieces of the Vietnam War, the lightweight rucksack. This is kind of like burned into everyone's memories of the Vietnam War. If anyone knows anything about Vietnam, they know all about the rucksacks, because I don't know how many films you have of guys just rucking it out. I will say though, rucks are not as common as you would think, but they're very common just because, well, they're great. And for a long patrol, when you need to carry a lot of stuff on you, your rucksack is going to be a perfect little addition. I have a very light setup on my rucksack, so just a couple extra canteens. My C-Rat can burner, which is on this side. And so nothing too fancy. Of course, I usually also put a poncho underneath this, but this is the typical light setup. Your ruck setup is really mission oriented. It's not going to be always the same every time. It really depends what you need for that mission. But yeah, so anyways, this is pretty much it. This is dressing as a Vietnam War soldier for the Army, 1969. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see you next time.